Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a very, very amazing moment. You guys have made it through 3 days of orientation. And to quote our dean, take a breath, breathe in, breathe out. We're almost done. And this is a really special way to end your orientation. So as I have written here, which I will go to my remarks now, today is one of the most special days of the year for all of us here at the law school. Before you leave this room today, you will have taken our school's professionalism oath, which symbolizes the beginning of your journey into this most noble of professions, the law. It's a special day and a solemn day, and probably a very overwhelming day with all the information that you have received over the past few days. Over the past few days and over the next few months and years, you are going to receive many, many pieces of advice. As we've told you guys, lawyers love to give advice. They love to talk. And I would not be doing my job if I did not add to that set of advice that you would be receiving. My advice is based on my 15 years of experience as a practicing lawyer in a variety of settings, as well as my 6 years here at the law school in various capacities, most recently as your dean of students. And that advice is this: relationships matter, and your reputation matters. Relationships matter, and your reputation matters. Relationships and reputation are important in most fields. They matter in medicine. You can imagine for doctors, it's very important. In sales and business, you want to be trustworthy. In science, in teaching, in sports, in entertainment, in entrepreneurship. But I would argue that in the law, these two things are even more crucial. And that is because the product that we sell is our advice. The product that we sell is our word. And our work, whether it's on behalf of individuals, companies, or causes that we serve, it ultimately impacts real people. And it's indisputable for those of you in this room that relationships you build and the reputation that you develop begin now. They begin here, they begin in this room, they begin in this school. Look around you, really look around. Your classmates, your professors, the administrators in this law school, these are the first people with whom you are going to be building your relationships as a law student and as a lawyer. And these are the first people with whom you're going to be forming that ever important professional reputation. The relationships that you make here may last a lifetime. Some of my law school friends and I are still friends. Some of your relationships may end at graduation. And of course, there are going to be some people that you meet in a day, whether that's here or whether that's out in the world, where the relationship that you build is very fleeting. It's just that day, or it's just that transaction. But every interaction that you have is a chance to build a relationship with someone who you can potentially call upon at some point in the future, and with someone who might someday call upon you. You never know when someone is going to reappear in your life. In law school and in the practice of law, relationships are crucial. The people you are surrounded with in this room are not only the people with whom you're going to laugh and, yes, cry, form study groups, share notes, or even potentially become roommates. They are also your future potential clients. They're the future potential judges who you're going to appear before, your future opposing counsel. They could be your future colleagues. They could be your future bosses. You have no way of knowing today whose desk in this room your resume is going to cross in the future. You have no way of knowing who in this room is going to read one of your briefs and have to respond to it or decide on it. Law is a referral-based business, so having positive relationships beginning in law school can only help you in your legal studies, but also in your pursuit of justice and in your client's interests in the future. Relationships don't end with your classmates. Taking the time to build relationships with your professors will help you with your studies. You will feel more comfortable speaking in class if you've taken the time to go to office hours and talk to your professors. If you're more comfortable talking in class, you're going to be more likely to ask questions when you don't understand something. You heard from Professor Sanders on Wednesday talking about how amazing our faculty is. They have all had incredible careers inside and outside of academia, and they can be a wonderful source of professional guidance for you. I would also add, as their colleague, that they are kind and approachable human beings, and they are here to help you learn, to grow, and to come to love the law. A great relationship with professor could lead you to a research opportunity, could lead to a professional connection. And at a minimum, by beginning to build these relationships now, you're going to make it easier for yourself in the future to ask for a letter of recommendation or for someone to serve as a reference for you on the bar. Likewise, building relationships with administrators and staff in the building will benefit you professionally and personally. There are a lot of us here in the building who aren't faculty, but who are lawyers, and we have extensive experience and networks. And all of those of us in the building, whether we're lawyers or not, know lawyers. We know lots and lots and lots of lawyers. We are going to be asked to opine about your character and fitness, which we talked about yesterday. So getting to know people and building a rapport around the building is only going to help you. And this is where reputation comes in. Remember, I said that relationships matter and reputation matters. Now I'm going to talk about reputation. One of our esteemed alumnus who was one of our prior orientation speakers, Judge Gregory Pittman, said something in his speech that really stuck with me, and I think about it a lot. What he said was that your relationship exists outside of you. It walks around in spaces where you are not even present. It precedes you and it follows you. Think about that. You may not be able to control your reputation once it is out in the world, but you can control your actions, your words, and the impression that you leave on people, which in turn is going to create that positive reputation for you. If you speak and act with kindness, integrity, and honesty, then you do not have to worry about what your reputation is out there saying about you while you are doing something else. In law school, you can exercise that kindness and integrity in a lot of ways. We demonstrated that on day one during our panel about how we can disagree with civility. You can give people the benefit of the doubt in a heated class discussion. You can sleep on it before you send a rejoinder by email, and you can refrain from nastiness in group chat. I hate that I have to say this, but the bulk of the relationship damaging interactions that I have seen in law school have taken this form, and they end up in my office every single year. Emailing or texting something that you did not think through before sending can damage your reputation. Screenshots are forever. Screenshots are forever. And that is why most lawyers will advise you to think about everything you write as potentially being read in open court. Would you want a judge, a client, or the bar examiners who will be evaluating your character and fitness to read that? Think about that. In the field of law, having a reputation for fairness, integrity, and honesty will give you credibility with your peers and professors in the classroom. And once you're in practice, an upstanding reputation will allow judges and adversaries alike to give you the benefit of the doubt. Your reputation for kindness and honesty may be the deciding factor when opposing counsel grants you a needed extension. Your reputation for fairness will make for smooth negotiations and ultimately better results for your client or for your cause. If you are trustworthy and you do what you say you will gain the respect of those around you. And this begins now. This begins with your classmates and with the faculty, staff, alumni, and employers that you're going to interact with as law students. So take seriously your reputation and begin now to build a reputation that you can be proud of as it roams around outside of your control. To hit it home one more time, combined, building and nurturing relationships and maintaining a good reputation will take you far in the law. Good grades, membership on a journal, winning moot court, these are all things that you should be aspiring for. But at the end of your career, no one is going to remember that. Frankly, your grades and activities may not even be things that remain on your resume after you've been out of law school for a few years. And they're not necessarily something that most employers are going to be considering after you're a practicing attorney. What is going to stick around and what is going to be really important to people and what you should be thinking about now is keeping in mind how you make other people feel so that you can preserve your reputation and your relationships. So on that note, I would like to turn over the microphone to Professor Charlie J., who's going to inspire you with his words of wisdom. Thank you very much.
Look at me be inspirational. It's just, good Lord, how many dark suits in one room? I sort of feel like I'm the keynote speaker at the annual meeting of the American Conference of Funeral Home Directors. I think one of the things, my heart's gladdened that I don't think we will ever see each other in one room dressed this uncomfortably. And those of you who are in my civil procedure class will discover soon enough that my sartorial style falls somewhere on the continuum between civil servant who dressed in the dark and 1990s hobo. But I'm digressing here. Ladies and gentlemen, consider the lawyer joke. Question: what is the difference between a dead lawyer and a dead snake on the side of the road? Answer: there are skid marks in front of the snake. Question 2: why have scientists replaced rats with lawyers in laboratory experiments? Answer: The scientists were becoming emotionally attached to their rats. Animal rights groups are unconcerned about what happens to lawyers. And there are some things you just can't get a rat to do. Question: why don't sharks eat lawyers? Professional courtesy. And unless you have any doubt in your mind that this is an enduring sort of metaphor, those of you who don't have opera glasses with you today, and God help us, I will think less of you of a human being if you do, I have a shark tie in which each of these sharks are festooned with commercial or real estate or litigator or, in other words, it is part of the external culture. Final joke, which is one of my favorites, but takes a moment to sort of internalize, is how many lawyers does it take to roof a house? Answer: it depends upon how thinly you slice them. Now, see, it takes a moment, right? The message is that lawyers are loathsome, lawyers are vicious, lawyers are unprincipled. And the question you got to ask is, where does that come from? And the answer is there are several reasons, three of which really are beyond lawyers to control because they are inherent in what we do. But then there's the fourth that I want to bear down on. Looking at the earlier ones first, though, lawyers step in and make a living when people are in crisis and will invariably be seen as preying on the misery of others. Second, lawyers are called upon to represent people who are, unpopular, war criminals, terrorists, pedophiles, and sociopaths, and we will always be tarred with our client's brush. Third, lawyers are trained to exploit the law for the benefit of their clients and will always be seen as taking unfair advantage. And then we get to the fourth explanation that I want to focus my attention on. That 9 times out of 10, lawyers quietly go about their business ethically and honorably. But it's the 10th who does not that's going to grab the headlines. Lawyer jokes are funny because they exaggerate what people perceive as a kernel of truth underlying the joke. If the joke ran, "Why don't sharks eat orphans?" Answer: professional courtesy. You're not going to get a laugh. You're going to get a WTF, right? I mean, it's not in the realm of possibility. In our business, any unethical conduct is too much. And the time to start thinking about it is now. Law schools take a great pride in telling you that we teach you to learn to think like lawyers. But I think it's also our duty to teach you to act like good lawyers as well. Now, before we get off the subject of the lawyer joke, a bit of a practice pointer. As practicing lawyers, you are going to confront clients who tell you the same lawyer joke you have heard 30 times before. And the question is, what do you do? Now, I mean, I think that, just sort of way of example, suppose, for example, that the client comes up to you and barely being able to, suppress a snot bubble says, "By God, what's the difference between a dead lawyer and a dead snake on the side of the road?" And you have an internal eye roll and you wait for the punchline. And then one possibility is that you can rise up and declare, voice quavering, "I'm shocked and appalled that you would impugn my profession thus. Good day, sir." I said, "Good day." Now, I mean, those people don't have much friends and they don't make much money. And so I'm not particularly advocating for that. The other one takes a bit of practice in the mirror, but may be worth your time. That when the question is asked, you wait for the punchline and then you discipline yourself to wait for an awkward 3 count. Dead lawyer, the skid marks in front of the snake, pause, 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 at which point you go, "Ah!" Which serves the purpose, on the one hand, of saying, okay, you are my client, and therefore I will laugh at your jokes, but it doesn't mean I don't think you're still a douchebag. The third possibility is when the client sidles up to you and says, "What's the difference between a dead lawyer and a dead snake on the side of the road?" You basically say, "Skid marks in front of the snake," and bill him for the answer. So, moving on. When we talk about professionalism, what do we mean? Being a professional, I think, means different things in different contexts. When we hear that a collegiate athlete is going pro, that they're becoming a profession, it means that they're getting paid, that they're doing it full time, that they're doing it as a livelihood. When we ask someone for their professional opinion, it means that they have special expertise or special ability. And when we hear that someone is a true professional, It means that they are a class act, that they hold themselves to a higher standard of conduct, that they put other interests ahead of their own. And that one derives from the Latin to profess, to take an oath, which is really the origin of the term profession. Roscoe Pound, who has one of the greatest names in the history of American law, offered up a classical definition of a profession. He called it, quote, the practice of a learned art as a common calling in the spirit of public service. Now that has three parts, right? It is a practice of a learned art, part one, as a common calling, part two, in the spirit of public service, part three, and I want to unpack that a little bit. The practice of a learned art captures the notion of lawyers having special expertise or ability. It implies the need for competence and for diligence. And what it does is signal, I think, as you've been signaled throughout the course of your orientation, that missed deadlines, lack of familiarity with changes in the law, failure to communicate adequately with a client can result in all kinds of bad things: malpractice liability, ineffective assistance of counsel, and discipline for lack of diligence. It puts new spin on how you approach the enterprise now that you're entering law school. Begin ending every week early by blowing off your work to party may have worked for some of you in college. But I think it's something that you need to take on with a different perspective, because in 3 years, you're going to be representing clients where the stakes are considerably higher. The second component is thinking about a profession as being a common calling. When it comes to what we have in common, we're part of a legal community. As a community, we observe basic norms of civility, courtesy, common decency. Some lawyers, and you'll encounter them, say, not me, I'm going to belch nails, crap thunder, and leave a scorched earth in my wake because that's what I do. Now, I think the problem here is, apart from the fact that that kind of behavior is unpleasant to wake up to and go to work with, it is also highly unproductive. A lawyer's relationship with other lawyers, with other judges, with court personnel are kind of like spokes in a wheel. If you damage a spoke, the wheels turn badly. If in an effort to prevail in a given matter, a lawyer refuses reasonable requests, tries to win through intimidation, behaves like a jackass, he loses the respect of his colleagues. As a consequence, no one is going to cut him some slack or do him a common courtesy when his clients need it, to the detriment of his career and his client's case. Now, and this is consistent with what Dean McFadden was saying before, the people in this room will be part of your professional community for the rest of your life. They will be in a position to offer you advice, to give you a referral, to offer you a job. Burn bridges at your peril. Now, you're going to have opportunities to practice civility and common decency inside and outside of the classroom. We live in deeply polarized political times. The temptation to become angry or dismissive with people whose views you disagree is considerable. But in times this volatile, the rule of law is our nation's bulwark against the collapse of the constitutional order and descent into resolving our disagreements through violence. As a community committed to the rule of law, it is imperative that we remain civil and decent with each other, notwithstanding our differences, even when those around us rage out of control. And I think that's one of the takeaways from the debate staged between Professors Waters and Sanders the other day, is promoting a kind of civility that the rule of law facilitates. We need to do better than what we are seeing in the world around us. This notion of a profession as a common calling also implies that you're not just doing a job, but what you're doing is part of a calling. You will become officers of the court who take an oath to uphold the law, akin to the oath you'll be taking later this afternoon. You will be bound to uphold the standards of our profession in your public and private lives. By entering law school, you have become a representative of your profession. So beginning now, youthful indiscretions look different. Social media presence where you're out to party and you knock over falling down drunk look different. The kinds of emails and texts that you send can be different. They can come back and bite you in ways that they haven't before. Plagiarism and cheating has never been good, obviously, but now it's career ending. And so I think the consequences of thinking about this as a common calling, implies that you are doing more than just getting a job. You are looking at a way of life that begins now. Being a part of a profession also means more. And I think to this extent, we've touched upon the first two essential attributes of a profession. First, the practice of law as a learned art, and second, as a common calling, which leads the third component, in a spirit of public service. This implies an orientation toward others, right? There is nothing wrong with worrying about yourself, finding a job that will make you happy, making a good living, supporting yourself, having a family. Indeed, I would argue that you're not likely to be able to help others if you hate your job or are worried where your next meal will come from. But being a part of a profession means more. It means committing yourself to standards of conduct that sometimes put the interests of the public ahead of yourself. Let me give you a couple of examples. It's one out of the books. A client came to her lawyer and said, my sister and I were we've been living together. We have a joint bank account. She just bolted and took our entire joint savings account out and ran away. And I need you to help me try to recover it. I don't know what to do. The lawyer, as it turns out, is fully aware of the sister, what she has done, where she is, and realizes that with a phone call, he can make everything right. What he tells the client, though, is that he will charge 1/3 of whatever he can recover in exchange for his services. Now, in the business world, this might be a shrewd business decision. For lawyers subject to a duty not to charge excessive fees, though, it is a fairly serious ethics violation, and as this lawyer discovered. There's another example that we can come up with to underscore the point that this duty carries on not just in your professional life, the way it did with the lawyer I just described, but also in your personal life. So that we had a lawyer who was a real estate lawyer, and his side hustle was he bought a building and rented it out to tenants, which is perfectly fine. The follow-up, though, is that he installed two-way mirrors in all of the bathrooms so that he could spy on the tenants while they showered. Like you do. This created a problem. And when the bar came calling, his answer was, well, yeah, it's a little pervy, but I'm one hell of a lawyer, and in my professional practice, I've done nothing wrong. And what the bar says, yeah, no. We look at this kind of dishonorable conduct as reflecting badly on your fitness to practice law. Out you go. And I think it's also important to think about this in terms of student life as well. There's sort of a cautionary tale involving a student who went to UCLA a few years ago, was on law review, was on moot court, had accepted an offer to join a firm in Washington, D.C. upon graduation. And in his capacity on the moot court, he was the treasurer. And when his sister got arrested, he was broke. And so what he did was dipped into the till of the moot court to pay for her bail. And all indications are he intended to pay it back. When that was discovered, the bar came calling. And when he tried to gain admission to the DC bar, they said, no, siree. That the point is that when you are a lawyer, one of your jobs is going to be to manage your client's funds. They're going to be giving you retainers. They're going to be giving you your money. And your job is to basically, in a position of trust, manage that money in a way that doesn't have you sticking your hands in it, even if your intentions are honorable. He was not admitted to the bar, and I checked again years later, he had never become a practicing lawyer. So, looking forward to the immediate future, in class, I think it's useful to think about your classmates and I as being kind of like your clients. To be ready to advise us on the facts and law of the cases you read, and not to waste our time when you're called upon. Blowing us off for a late night out, or even for work in another class, puts your interests ahead of others in ways that you should struggle against. Because in 3 years, your clients will be depending on you to represent them effectively, even if you're tired, even if you're busy. So, as a professional lawyer, you acquire special knowledge that you use to serve others who lack that knowledge and who put their trust in you to provide it. Knowledge is power, and with power, with a genuflection to Spider-Man, comes great responsibility. Responsibility not to exploit that relationship of trust for your benefit. But putting the interests of others ahead of your own is not easy. And I'd like you to consider a fairly famous, if dated, experiment called the Good Samaritan experiment. The New Testament parable, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, is a traveler is robbed, beaten, and left roadside. First, a high-ranking priest passes by and ignores the injured man. Second, a Levite passes by, high status individual, same result. And then a lowly Samaritan stops by to render assistance. And the Samaritan, Jesus declares, is the true neighbor in this parable. In the Good Samaritan experiment, a group of Princeton seminarians were asked to prepare a lecture. One half were asked to speak on the parable of the Good Samaritan. The other half were asked to speak on how to get seminary jobs, and the winner was to receive scholarship money. They were asked to wait in one building, and then when called upon, they were scheduled to cross a quad and go to another building where they would deliver their lecture. One half of the group, then all of them were called early. In other words, all of them were called to speak ahead of schedule. In one group, they were told, it's urgent. If you don't come now, you're going to lose your chance to speak and win the prize. The other group was told, no urgency, but come anyway. As they left the building and crossed the quad, they came upon a man doubled over in pain, obviously or seemingly injured in some way. The result of this experiment was that 63% of the seminarians aided the man in the non-rush situation. Come on, but take your time. Only 10% aided in the rush situation. 53% of the group who gave the Good Samaritan speech, they rendered aid, whereas only 29% of the people who were speaking on getting a job rendered aid. However, that differential between 53% and 29%, given the sample size, was not significant, was not statistically significant. In other words, it couldn't be, the possibility of chance couldn't write it off. So what conclusions do we draw from this? One possibility is, well, people suck. And thinking about ethics has no statistically significant impact on their behavior. So why bother with today's session? To which I have two responses. First, that 53% to 29% differential, where the 53% who thought about and spoke about the Good Samaritan experiment were rendered aid relative to the fewer number that didn't when they were there to speak about jobs, is at least suggestive, even if it is not statistically significant. Second, perhaps what this study tells us is that preparing a single lecture is not by itself sufficient, and neither is holding one session on professionalism. Me prattling on for 20 minutes will not do the trick. Today needs to be the start, not the end. If the faculty take its desire for you to act like good lawyers as seriously as it takes its desire for you to think like them, maybe it'll make a difference. Now, the parable of the Good Samaritan featured three travelers, two bad ones and a good one. I don't really care too much about the bad ones. If your first impulse when encountering an injured person doubled over on the ground is to poke them with your toe and say, Darwin's a bitch, you're kind of a lost cause, right? Conversely, I only care so much about the Good Samaritan too. If your first impulse upon seeing others in pain is to say, I live for self-sacrifice. Here, take my car, take my pants. Do you need a kidney? Then you're Mahatma Gandhi and you'll do just fine without anything additional. But there's another Samaritan the parable never mentions. And I call her the so-so Samaritan. She comes upon the injured man as she's walking by and she thinks, I really should help. But then she pauses as she's walking. But he might be faking. This could be a trap to rob me. And I've got to get home to a sick child. Someone else is bound to come along and help. I'm no doctor. I could make matters worse. He may have a chronic condition and prefer to be left alone. I may only embarrass him. But I got to do something. At this point, she's half a block along and decides to go back to render aid, only to discover that the Good Samaritan's already there and she's been written out of the parable. And so it's the so-so Samaritan I'm most interested in, because that's where the untapped potential is. And the practice of law is form fit to serve that potential. Think about why people go to lawyers. It's because the worst thing that could happen in their lives has just happened. They've been arrested. They've suffered crippling injury. They're going bankrupt. Their marriage has gone sideways and their children's future hangs in the balance. They're about to be deported. And they turn to you because you have the specialized skills and training to help them. And you have made it your job to do so. And think about the world in which we are living. Civil rights and police misconduct, consumer rights and student debt, reproductive rights in the aftermath of Dobbs, information rights and the internet, property rights and the regulation of artificial intelligence, the right of Muslims to travel here, the right of immigrants to stay here, the right of transgendered people to be here, the struggle to decide where rights end and responsibilities begin, and the future of our democracy and the rule of law itself. If your first impulse is to look at this landscape, rub your hands together and cackle, cha-ching, you're in the wrong room. But if your reaction is to want to roll up your sleeves, get involved, and make a difference, welcome to the best line of work on the planet. Thank you.
There's a reason why I go first and he goes second, because it's a hard act to follow. So, but I would now like to introduce, sorry. Okay. He's confusing me back here, standing back here behind me, lurking. So I'm very, very excited right now to introduce to you your Student Bar Association President, Ms. Samantha Jean.
Such a quiet room. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, bring the sound just a little bit. I'm short. I can't even begin to emphasize what an honor it is to stand before you today as your incoming Student Bar Association president. As you wrap up your orientation and prepare to embark on this incredible journey through law school, I'd like to share a few thoughts that I hope will inspire and guide you throughout the next few years. First, let me say congratulations. I know you've probably been hearing that word all week, but really it can't be overstated. You made it here, and that is no small feat. Getting into law school is like getting a golden ticket to Willy Wonka's factory, except instead of chocolate, you get case books. Lots and lots of case books. But hey, who doesn't love a 500-page Turner, right? Now, I know you've all heard that law school is tough, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is. You're going to spend lots of time reading, writing, and probably questioning every life decision that led you up to this point. But don't worry, that's completely normal. If you don't have at least one existential crisis before finals, you're probably not doing it right. But as you begin this journey, I want to encourage you to think beyond academics. Yes, your classes are important. Yes, your grades will matter, but there's so much more to law school than what happens in the classroom. Law school is like a 3-year buffet. There's a lot to choose from. And if you only stick to the salad bar, you're missing out on the good stuff. I was sitting exactly where you were in this very room not too long ago. And I remember it like it was yesterday. Maybe more like the day before yesterday, because law school does things to our memory. But I remember the excitement. I remember the nerves. I remember the feeling of, wow, I wonder if I'm truly ready for this. Spoiler alert, you are. And if you're not, don't worry. You'll figure it out just like the rest of us. Get out there, join a student organization or 5. Run for a position, volunteer for a cause you care about, attend every event that promises free food, because that's the real language that we speak fluently here. When I look back at my time here in Bloomington, it's the people I've met, the experiences I've had, and yes, the pizza I've eaten that has defined my law school journey. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but what if I fail? And to that, I say, so what? Failing is a part of the process. It's about how many times you can get back up, dust off your outline, and keep going. Plus, failure makes for great stories later on. Nothing bonds law students like shared tales of woe from civil procedures. I'd like to take a quick break to acknowledge, thank you. I'd like to go ahead and take a quick break now to acknowledge the students that were nominated for the award for student leadership and fostering community and inclusiveness. These students are not in this room today, but you will all, as you will all come to see, they're all amazing people and very worth meeting. On that note, I want to recognize someone who's gone above and beyond in this law school community. Thank you. This person didn't just survive, they thrived. And in doing so, they've inspired us all. Neshuba Hudson is the former president of the Black Law Students Association, the first Black woman to lead the Indiana Law Journal of Global Legal Studies. And as of very recently, she has officially accepted a return offer from Quarles and Brady. But beyond all of the titles she holds, I'm most proud to call her a dear friend. Neshuba's aspirations don't just stop at her impressive achievements thus far. Like many of us in this room, she's a dreamer. She hopes to visit every continent, and in true Neshuba fashion, she dreams of starting a scholarship fund to give back to those who will later follow in her footsteps. It is my great pleasure to present the Student Leadership in Fostering Community and Inclusiveness Award to Neshuba Hudson. Neshuba.
I don't know what to do.
You've shown us what it means to be resilient, dedicated, and above all passionate. I'm sorry, I wrote a little too long, so bear with me. You've left a mark on the school, and I have no doubt that you'll continue to do so in the legal world. Congratulations, and thank you for being an incredible example to us all. To the rest of you, remember, if you remember nothing else, remember this. Law school is not just about what you learn, it's who you become. Because if you can't laugh at yourself in law school, you're gonna have a rough time. And hey, if you ever need a break, my door's always open. Just remember to bring snacks. Thank you so much, and best of luck to you all. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna put on my readers. This is what law school does to your eyes. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much to our amazing student body president and dear friend Samantha for such a wonderful introduction. I simply cannot wait to take 3L by storm with you. Before I begin, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to the selection committee for this incredible honor. Knowing all of these nominees, I understand this was a tough position. And as you all soon will come to find out, they are all superstars in their own right. I understand it's 3:41 on a Friday afternoon, and it's us standing in between you and the weekend. So I promise to make this brief. I stand before you here today, honored and profoundly grateful to accept this award. To be recognized in such a way is both humbling and inspiring. And it is a testament to the commitment of this institution to not only celebrate, but actively cultivate a community where diversity, inclusiveness, and mutual respect are not just ideals, but lived experiences. 2 years ago, at this very moment, I was you, burnt out from a 3-day orientation, wishing the speakers would wrap it up quickly so I can go home and take a nap. In all seriousness, I know the plethora of emotions you all must feel. It's a mixture of extreme excitement and pure terror. If you ask any 2 or 3L, we'll say it's a rite of passage. Law school is a one-of-a-kind experience. It is hard work and oftentimes will make you question your own insanity. But as our president just alluded to, the dividends it yields is life-changing. At this very moment, 2 years ago, I watched another phenomenal Black woman by the name of Abigail Crong receive this award and give the speech. I thought to myself, most importantly, this is the moment I made my first real goal in law school, and that was Neshuba. You need to get that award. On the surface, it could have been my type A personality seeking to add more stuff to my resume. However, before I understood how the curve worked or what it meant to think like a lawyer, I saw community. It was the community she fostered that I admired so deeply. She was the leading example of what it meant to be a cornerstone within our Maurer family. And in this moment, I too dreamt to make such an impact. Oh, after 4 semesters, almost 10 student organizations, 4 executive boards, and 2 student employment opportunities, today I'm proud to report that yet another dream of mine has manifested itself into reality, or more accurately, mission accomplished. I am immensely grateful to my family, my peers who I now have the honor of also calling friends, my mentors, my professors, and the many individuals here at Maurer who have walked alongside me, guided me, and challenged me. Your unwavering support has fueled my motivation. You have all been my inspiration, and this award is as much as yours as it is mine. In reflecting on my journey, I am reminded that the path towards inclusiveness is not a solitary one. It is paved by the collective efforts of those who dare to stand up, speak out, and take action. To all those who have shared their stories, engaged in difficult conversations, and have worked tirelessly behind the scenes advocating for whatever cause you might believe in, your efforts are the true heart of progress. Today is not just a celebration of an individual's achievement, but it's a call to continue our shared mission. We are living in times where our commitment to fostering a welcome community is more crucial than ever. The challenges we face are complex and evolving, but it is through our collective strength and resilience that we can navigate them. Let us remember that fostering inclusiveness means creating spaces where every voice is heard, every identity is valued, and every individual feels a sense of belonging. It means acknowledging our differences while celebrating what unites us, It means being brave enough to confront biases and compassionate enough to uplift those around us. I challenge each of us to take the spirit forward, to be relentless in our pursuit of equity as advocates of the law, to be intentional in our actions, and to be empathetic in our interactions. Let us continue to build bridges where walls once stood, and to turn moments of discourse into opportunities of growth and understanding. To my fellow future leaders in this room, know that the power to make a difference lies within you. Your voice, your actions, and your commitment to the legal profession is the keys to unlocking a brighter future for all of us. As I accept this award, I do so with a deep sense of responsibility and a renewed commitment to our shared vision, equity and justice for all. Together, let us continue to foster a community where everyone feels safe, seen, heard, and valued. Thank you.
I just really want to thank Samantha Jean for the service that she's about to give to the law school. You're clearly already doing a fabulous job, and we've got some work to do. Congratulations to Neshuba. It is true, all the people who were nominated are fabulous. But I cannot think of a more deserving one than you, Nishuba. And so, yeah, mission accomplished is right. And we've got some work to do too. Okay, I'm just going to very quickly introduce our fabulous guest for today. But before I do that, just very, very quickly, I want to give some thanks. You've just been through 3 days of orientation. And you can imagine the amount of institutional effort it takes to provide you with all the information that you've been provided over the last 3 days. And we hope that it's helpful. I remember Dean McFadden saying in the very first session, you're going to feel like you're drinking through a fire hose. I am sure you have. But thanks to all those who organized that fire hose. So obviously, thanks to Dean McFadden, thanks to Dean Escobedo, thanks to Katie Beck, who you will meet once she is back from am I allowed to say? Yeah. She's going to have a baby today. Thanks to Jamil Ghazal, who you will meet if you are involved in any student organization. Thanks also to Chelsea Browning, who organizes all of the beauty that comes into our events, to Kim Hughes, who keeps the law school going in so many ways, Cassie Fitzwater, who does the same, Paul Leopold, who any of you who have any sort of financial aid or have had financial advice already know he is the best in the country, bar none. Paul Stiles and Marion Conity, who helped with all the technology, Susan Demain, who is directing the library, and the rest of the faculty and the staff and the students who have helped you feel welcome just in this last few days. So thank you to all of that group of people. It is an all hands on deck effort to get through this orientation. So now, without more, the Honorable Mario Garcia, who is here with us today, was sworn in as Magistrate Judge of the United States District Court for the Southern District of Indiana on April 5th, 2021. Judge Garcia was appointed to a new magistrate judgeship created for the Southern District of Indiana by the Judicial Conference of the United States. He is the first judge of Hispanic heritage to serve in the Southern District of Indiana. Congratulations. And also thank you. Judge Garcia is a 1995 graduate of Ball State University, where he received his Bachelor's of Arts degree in criminal justice and criminology. He studied law at Indiana University School of Law in Indianapolis, a fabulous law school, where he graduated in 1999. Upon graduation from law school, Judge Garcia joined the law firm of Brattain, Minix. I should have asked you how to pronounce that. I'm so sorry. You can correct me later. But it later became Brattain, Minix, and Garcia. He became a partner of that firm in 2008 and eventually served as its managing partner. Judge Garcia is a registered civil mediator, and also during his more than 21-year career as an attorney, Judge Garcia gained extensive courtroom experience in both civil and criminal law, appearing in thousands of hearings in Indiana's federal and also state courts. Importantly, Judge Garcia has devoted much of his professional energies towards helping people who really just don't have anywhere else to turn. And for that, so many people thank him. He was a member of the Southern District of Indiana's Criminal Justice Act panel, through which he represented indigent clients. He also provided pro bono services for over 10 years to participants in the district court's reentry and community help program, which helps individuals re-entering society after incarceration to obtain access to housing, to employment, and to public assistance programs. Judge Garcia previously served on the United States Sentencing Commission Practitioners Advisory Group as the Seventh Circuit representative, and currently serves on the District Court's Local Rules Advisory Committee for the Southern District of Indiana. He is definitely somebody who you might want to take the time to get to know if any of those aspects of his CV appeal to you or resonate with you. He also regularly volunteers throughout the greater community. And for example, he serves the Alzheimer's Association Greater Indiana chapter. He served as the trustee and vice chairman of the Board of Trustees for the Orchard School and a member of the board of directors for La Plaza Inc., which was formerly the Hispanic Center Inc., which he served on as board chairman. He also served as chairman of the board for the Indiana Federal Community Defenders, Inc. We are so grateful for your service, and we're so grateful that you've taken the time with that busy of a life to be here with us today. So thank you so much.
Great. Well, it is a real pleasure to be here with you all today. And let me go off script for a second and just say that it's shocking to me. I've not met Dean McFadden or Professor Jay or any of your other speakers before. And as you'll hear in a moment, a number of themes are consistent throughout our words to you this afternoon. So I hope you aren't too bored by them or feel that they're redundant, but it's because they're important. And the things that we're trying to convey to you all in this professional setting are things that will do well for you as you go about the next 3 years and beyond. I'm incredibly honored to be here this afternoon speaking in front of you, in part because my connection to this campus runs deep. My parents were students at Indiana University Bloomington back in 1973 when I was born, and my first bed was in married housing over up on the hill. So it's very humbling to be able to tell my mom and dad that I was coming back to campus today to speak with all of you. I won't bore you with any more of my personal or professional backgrounds, as the dean did a fabulous job of summarizing them. But what I'd ask you to consider is what I'm going to tell you today is based in part on my life's experiences, and in particular, my legal career after practicing law, and I do mean practicing law for 21 years before taking the bench 3.5 years ago. We're going to talk a little bit about today the why you are here, where you are going, how to do it well, how to avoid mistakes that others have made before you. And we'll also talk about what your life may look like once you successfully complete this legal education. As a magistrate judge with the federal court, I have 2 jobs. The first is to get cases ready for trial. So I'm working every day with lawyers talking about the issues in a case and how to resolve them and how to get them ready to be presented to the trier of fact. But more importantly, and almost more primarily, I'm working to help solve problems and settle cases through settlement conferences. I've done over 450 settlement conferences or mediations in the past 3.5 years. So every day I'm working pragmatically to find solutions to people's problems so they can put it behind them and move forward. So my speech today is a little bit based on that pragmatic approach to your legal and academic career. So let's talk about the why you're here. You're here because each of you have strong academic credentials, diverse personal backgrounds, and appreciate the doors that a legal degree is going to open for you. Most importantly, you're here because you understand with a legal degree, you can affect change that nobody else can do. You have an incredible opportunity to use the hard work and talents that you each have and that you've each developed to do good in the world, whether it's representing corporations that produce life-enhancing goods and services, whether it's serving in local or federal government, academia, or devoting your time to nonprofit causes. Maybe like me, you're going to defend or prosecute individuals who are in the criminal justice system. Whatever it is, this brings me to my first tip. And I'm going to summarize these tips at the end. But the first tip is to read, watch, or listen to Simon Sinek's Find Your Why. Maybe you've heard about it before. Maybe it's been a while since you've seen it. Maybe you've never heard about it. You may think you know what your why is. That is, why do you want to become a lawyer? You may think you know what it is you want to do. But life is full of twists and turns. Often, where you land is not where you thought you were going to be. But whether or not your career path changes, the one thing that can't change is why you are here. Your why that you found will never change. And once you find it, embrace it. Take the time to keep an open mind about all of the possibilities that lay before you. Law school, as they say, is professional school. Start acting like it. Build your professional reputation now. As you heard earlier, this is critically important. What do you want your classmates to remember about you? Let me give you an example, one that strikes very close to home here. I have a neighbor, Matt, who was a graduate this past year of this school. Matt is in between taking the bar and starting a fellowship next February. And so I said to Matt, I may have an opportunity for you to do an externship in my chambers if that's something you would be interested in doing. And I mentored Matt for the past couple of years of his law school career. And I said, but let me find out if that's something a postgraduate can do, and let me talk to my chambers to make sure that this would be an appropriate fit. Because I'm obviously very protective of the work that we do, and I like Matt, and I think he has incredible skills, but I also don't want to upset the apple cart in chambers. And so I went to my staff, and in particular my two law clerks, one of whom, Mary Kate, is also a graduate of this law school. McKinney's really going to be mad at me after this. And so I went to my law clerks and I said, hey, I've got this law student, neighbor friend of mine I've mentored. I think he could come in and help us out for about the next 6 months. And Mary Kate said, what's his name? I said, Matt. She said, oh my gosh, I was his ambassador or admissions. What is it? PGA. PGA. I was his PGA at law school. And later, when Matt was interested in joining the SBA, and I was part of the SBA, Matt came to me and I remember where I was standing and we had this very distinct conversation about it. I would love to have Matt come and join Chambers. Now, how do you think that conversation would turn out if Mary Kate thought Matt was a complete jerk, that he blew off law school, that he was drinking every day, that he was borrowing everyone's notes because he didn't want to learn the subject material himself? Well, it probably wouldn't turn out very well for Matt. And so I'm pleased to say that it is going to turn out, I think, well for Matt. He has an opportunity to come work for me to build his resume before he starts his fellowship and show that he has the credentials to work for the United States District Court. And I'm very happy for him. That's all to say this is a very small world that you find yourselves in. And the way you conduct yourself now and the impression that you leave upon your fellow classmates almost certainly will follow you well past law school. Don't mess it up. The first thing you can do today is turn next to someone that you're sitting by or later at the reception and say, hi, my name is Mario Garcia. I'm from Indianapolis. Where are you from? And tell me your story. Here is my second tip. Create a LinkedIn profile. If you don't have one already, that's okay. You've got enough materials. Go on, start adding people to it. You laugh, but it is critically important. The first thing I do when I'm looking for potential law clerks is go check their LinkedIn page. What are their credentials? I don't need to see their resume. What have they been doing? What organizations have they been a part of? What causes or reposts have they posted? It tells me a little bit about them. If you're on LinkedIn or you haven't started yet and you go create one, connect me. Send me an invitation. Use your status as a student to maximize your professional networking options. Networking doesn't come easy to you, and it didn't necessarily for me. Use this time now to practice. So in 3 years, when you're out looking for that first legal job, you'll have that experience and you'll be more comfortable with it when it matters most. As law students, lawyers, judges, and executives will almost certainly respond to any request that you have for a few minutes of their time. If all 200 of you reached out to me, and I doubt you all will, but if all 200 of you reached out to me to talk about my legal career, my experiences, maybe something I said today, or you want to come shadow court one day, I'm happy to respond and offer you that invitation in a few minutes of your time. Because what we have is our time, talent, and treasure to give to others. And I can assure you that many before me have given me their time, talent, and treasure. And it's my responsibility to give back and do the same. At one point, we were all students just like you. And so if it's the opportunity to answer a few questions or spend a little time, I hope that they do so, and I know that I will. That brings me to my third tip. Ask those who are in roles that you think you may want to serve what it is they like and enjoy about their job, what it is they don't like about their job, and what it's really like to perform the work that they're performing. You need to understand that the demands on lawyers, regardless of the field that you enter, are real. They can bring a lot of pressure and a lot of responsibility. And if you don't know and don't take the time now to figure out what that may look like, it may not end very well for you. Let me give you another example. There's a very good friend of mine who went to engineering school, another professional school, top 5 engineering school in the country. She was smart, is smart. She holds herself well. She's very professional. She went to private school throughout her academic experience and had amazing grades. And she knew in high school that she wanted to be an engineer. She did internships. She went to 4 years of undergraduate school and graduated with an engineering degree, and then decided during COVID to stay an extra year and got her master's in engineering. She graduated with honors, moved to a new city, and started to work for an engineering firm. And after about 6 months, realized she was incredibly unhappy. She was very upset because she had never explored what the actual practice of engineering was. This wonderfully talented and amazingly smart young woman never knew you had to bill like lawyers for your time on projects in an engineering firm. No one ever explained that to her. No one ever explained that her job as a new engineer was going to be sitting at a computer for 8 or 9 hours a day and looking at the screen and moving images and numbers around on the screen all day and then recording her time. That's not what she wanted to do. And that's not what anyone told her the life of being an engineer was like. So please take the time these next 3 years as you try and figure out what it is you wanted to do. And I'll give you another example. I wanted to go into sports law, named after Mario Andretti, most famous auto racing driver in the world. I wanted to be an auto racing lawyer, and I thought there'd be lots of those opportunities in Indianapolis. It's the motor racing capital of the world. There aren't. But I found opportunities to go out. The Dean Lefstein had a fund where he would give students money to go to conferences, CLEs, continuing legal education programs. And so I got to go to LA on a trip paid by the law school, maybe have some more money, and meet with all these sports lawyers. And what I quickly realized was, one, I couldn't do it in Indianapolis. And two, the number of jobs that were available to lawyers as a sports lawyer was similar to the number of jobs that are available to starting quarterbacks in the NFL. There are very few and far between. There are a lot of quarterbacks out there. There aren't many starting quarterbacks. And so I had to shift. But I learned through going out and talking to these people what it was really like to be a sports lawyer, and realized that it wasn't something I was probably going to be able to do. And that's okay. You'll start having to figure out how to juggle the personal and professional demands for your time. These pressures and demands, like I said, are probably not like anything you've ever experienced before. If you make a mistake, people's lives, their rights or claims, can be significantly impacted. People can go to jail. People can be innocently convicted. Products that hurt people can be released out into the marketplace. Understand, you will make mistakes, but how you respond to those mistakes can make all the difference. I was in my 4th or 5th year of practice, and I had a car dealership client who came to me and said, this guy just ripped us off for $30,000. He wrote us a bad check. I said, okay, we filed a lawsuit, we got a temporary injunction, and we seized this guy's bank account. Only he had more than $30,000 in it, $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 in it. And so we got this order, and I thought that was kind of the end of the story for now. But what I didn't realize was that it was my responsibility to send the order to the bank so that they only held $30,000, because the bank was just operating on the issue that, hey, they've got a preliminary injunction. We're just going to hold this account. And so time went by, and this guy got very impatient, very frustrated, and he didn't have a very good lawyer, and the lawyer wasn't communicating with me. And so he did something incredibly stupid. He forged a court order. He modified it down to $10,000. He took it to the bank accepted it, and they released all of his money except $10,000. And then I found out about it. And then I had to explain to my partner and to my client why it is that I didn't send this order to the bank, and why it is that now we're $20,000 less than where we thought we were. That was not a great conversation. But the manner in which that I conducted myself must have made an impression upon my client, because for the next 15 years, he was one of my best clients, because I had come to him and I had said, I messed up and I'm going to try and make it right. And we did eventually, but I didn't try and hide what had happened. I didn't try and place the blame on my paralegal who didn't send the order to the bank. And I certainly didn't tell my partner that, well, it's your fault because you didn't tell me properly how to handle this situation. It was my fault because I didn't ask. And it was my fault because I had the ultimate responsibility on the case. People won't necessarily remember the mistakes that you make as lawyers, but they're going to remember how you respond to them. So be honest with yourself and with others, and you'll do just fine. I want to take a few minutes and share a list of things, mistakes that I've learned after 25 years in practice. Many of these came from classmates of mine, so I hope it hits directly home with you. Often, these mistakes came from the pressures that my classmates were feeling. Some come from poor decision-making. Some were because people were just plain dumb. First, don't rush your work. Be thoughtful, careful, and professional. Go back over your writing multiple times, and don't just think, oh, I got an A in legal writing, I'm a great lawyer. Share your work with others. Don't be embarrassed or too ashamed to accept positive criticism back. Don't sleep with or date your clients. I know several lawyers in my class who unfortunately decided that they wanted to think about their own personal interests in the case rather than their professional interests. Don't take your clients' money or have bad record keeping for your clients' money. Your trust account is that. It is given to you. That money is given to you in trust. It's not to be able to use to float payroll because you're expecting some check from an insurance company who's notoriously slow at paying your bills. Don't travel to meet underage girls or boys. True story. Classmate got on a plane, flew to Florida, walked into a motel room hoping to meet this underage child, only to find the sheriff's department waiting for them, and spent 6 years in the Federal Department of Corrections. I'm sorry, the Florida Department of Corrections, and lost their license, fortunately. Always try and enjoy things in moderation, whether it's drinking, smoking legally, eating bad food, eating good food, or anything else that you might easily obsess over. When you don't do things in moderation, things can go wrong. Don't embarrass yourself in person or online socially. See, I think Professor Jay might have mentioned this, or Dean McFadden. Your reputation is going to be right there for anyone to see. Screenshots happen. You are going to be held to a higher standard, whether it's in person or online. Just be ready for it. Finally, don't use AI, artificial intelligence, to write your briefs or your papers. They're a great resource. I used it today. I ran my speech through ChatGPT, and it offered me a few suggestions on where I might change a word or two. But if you unwittingly rely upon it, you might find yourself in front of a judge having to explain why you included the citation to a case that doesn't exist. ChatGPT is phenomenal, but it goes out, and if it can't find the answer or it wants to please you, it'll make it up. And if you don't shepherd your work, you're going to submit something to the court. And I guarantee you, I remember the names of people that have submitted to me false information. It's not good. Let's talk about starting your legal career, because in 3 short years, you will have launched out into the world as new lawyers, having successfully completed 3 years here in Bloomington of educational training. You likely won't know much about what you're doing. You will be scared, intimidated, and lack confidence in your work. But know this, you deserve to be there. You will be the best that you can be, and that is going to be good enough. We can't foresee all of the curves in the road ahead that you will encounter, but we know you'll encounter them. And when you have important decisions in your life that you need help making, you're going to need someone. And that brings me to my final tip. Find a mentor. Mentors give you the opportunity to speak candidly and freely about where you are at in your decision making. You get to solicit valuable advice from someone who's been there before and has had to navigate those curves. It could be someone you work with, someone that you know from the neighborhood, someone you've met at a bar association, a former student or classmate. Whoever it is, find one. They will be invaluable to you as you launch your career. I am 100% confident that I would not be in the position that I'm in if it weren't for mentors that I had along my career path. They were there for me. They listened to me when I had tough decisions to make or needed advice on how to handle a difficult situation. Everything is going to feel new to you. Rely on those who've, again, been there before and learn from our mistakes as you figure out how to handle your situation. So in summary, let me go back to these tips. If you remember nothing more, remember these few things. Watch Simon Sinek's Finding Your Why. Create a LinkedIn profile, and I hope and expect that you reach out to me to connect. Ask those who are out there doing what it is you think you want to do, what it's really like to practice. And finally, find a mentor. It's been a pleasure speaking with you today. I wish you all the best in your careers. As members of our legal community, you bear responsibility for ensuring the sacred rule of law is protected. Each and every one of us needs to understand that without its defense, the rule of law fails. Anarchy reigns. Do your best to ensure that doesn't happen. And now, it's my honor to administer to you your professional oath. So if you will please rise and raise your right hand. Repeat after me. As a student entering Indiana University Maurer School of Law, I understand I am joining not only an academic community, but embarking on a professional career that has a special responsibility to the public. I acknowledge that my conduct inside and outside of the law school reflects on the entire Indiana law community, past, present, and future. I will conduct myself with dignity and civility, and will treat all fellow students, staff, faculty, alumni and guests, and employers with courtesy and respect. I promise to live up to the highest standards of the legal profession and uphold the highest standards of integrity, academic honesty, and ethical practice throughout the law school, and the remainder of my professional career. You may put your hands down. Congratulations on this next one.
Congratulations on completing orientation. Welcome to the Maurer School of Law and welcome to your 1L year.